to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video, and I'm going to be starting a new video series, basically trying to go over all the potential head coaching candidates, as I think most Giant fans anticipate for a change at that position. Pat Shurmur, of course, is off to a 2-11 start, and even he seems to be resigned to the fact that he will probably be replaced at some time. Now, of course, I've already done some videos on Ron Rivera and Matt Rule, two of the more popular candidates by Giant fans to become the head coach. So in this video, I'm going to go over another popular head coaching candidate. I'll do several others. I know people have asked me for a bunch in my community notes, but in this one, I am going to go over Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, of course, is more of an offensive mind. I feel like the Giants fans that would want to bring in McCarthy would view his value as a guy that could help grow Daniel Jones, the second-year quarterback out of Duke, who has shown some promise in his rookie year. After all, that is exactly what McCarthy is known for. If you look over his resume, he came up as a quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, and later took over as the head coach for the Green Bay Packers for a very long time, for about 13 years, I think it was, from 2006 to 2018. And before I get into all his accolades, I wanted to go over a quick quote from CBS Sports when it went over all the potential hires for Mike McCarthy, which teams would be most likely to bring him in. And there's Mike, and here is what they said about the New York Giants. They ranked them as the third most likely destination for Mike McCarthy in the offseason. The Giants have failed on two straight offensive coaches since the days of Tom Coughlin, canning Ben McAdoo after less than 2 seasons and somehow talking themselves into the blandness of Pat Shurmur, whose record is even worse than McAdoo's. Suffice to say, they aren't going to want to mess around with their next hire now that a potential franchise quarterback is on board. And who better to turn to than the guy who coached Aaron Rodgers, long led one of the conference's top contenders and rolled over the G-Men back in the 2016 playoffs. The biggest obstacle to McCarthy heading to the Big Apple might be another big-name candidate in Ron Rivera, who would offer the Giants a bolder personality on the opposite side of the ball. And that's the thing. I feel like some Giants fans are split here. Some Giants fans want the more defensive-minded coach in a Ron Rivera, like myself, and some of them want that offensive coach. And the trend in the NFL nowadays is to go more so with the offensive-minded head coach. It's what the Giants have done their last 2 hires, obviously with the previous mentioned McAdoo and the current Pat Shurmur. And in my opinion, if I was the owner, I would try to take the reverse approach. The offensive thing hasn't worked. You could always bring in a strong offensive mind. But I wanted to go over some of the things, some of the background for Mike McCarthy, how he got into the NFL. Like I said, he's 56 years old. He coached the Packers from 2006 to 2018. Now, before that, he coached at a minor college, I think, as an assistant. But he came on into the NFL in 1993 with the Kansas City Chiefs and then became a quarterback coach 2 years later in 95, coaching quarterbacks such as Elvis Grbac, Steve Bono, and Rich Gannon. Gannon, of course, we all know, went on to have success with the Oakland Raiders. Grbac, I remember as a kid, started, I believe, with the San Francisco 49ers, Elvis Grbac. So he was a quarterback coach there for a number of years under Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer, of course, is known as an offensive mastermind, a guy that found ways to use the running back in a variety of ways with LaDainian Tomlinson and his days with the San Diego Chargers. So that's his coaching trees. That's where he got his beginnings from. In 99, Schottenheimer resigned from the Kansas City Chiefs, so McCarthy moved on to become the quarterback coach of the Green Bay Packers, the organization that he would later come back to be the head coach just 6 years later or 7 years later. The next year, the Packers went on to fire their entire staff. He became the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints for 5 years, from 2000 to 2005. During that span, the Saints ranked 10th, 13th, 3rd, and 14th twice in total offense. So all 5 years, they were above league average. So he did a pretty good job there, which is when he became the offensive coordinator for the 49ers for 1 year with rookie quarterback Alex Smith, who struggled in his rookie year, and then became the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. In his first year, he struggled. They started out 4-8. They finished the year 8-8, winning their last 4 contests. His second year, he led the Packers to a 13-3 record, and they went all the way to the NFC title game. And it would be the last game that Brett Favre would play as a Packer when they would lose to my New York Giants. Giants, of course, went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Later in the offseason, Brett Favre said that he wanted to retire after that game. He then came back and said, all right, I want to come back and be the starter. Mike McCarthy and the general manager then stopped that, and they said Aaron Rodgers is our guy going forward. And, of course, we know the rest of the story. McCarthy had tremendous success with Aaron Rodgers. McCarthy's career record is extremely impressive, 125-77, including a Super Bowl championship, 6 divisional crowns, and 4 NFC title appearances. He also has a connection to Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo was his offensive coordinator later on with his tenure with the Green Bay Packers. Then McAdoo became the Giants offensive coordinator for a year or two with the New York Giants, where Eli Manning posted his best statistics as a pro. And yeah, like I said, his beginnings came from Schottenheimer, who was infamous for being fired from the San Diego Chargers after a 14-2 season, losing, I think it was, to the New England Patriots in the playoffs. But yeah, so that's the nuts and bolts of it. He came up as a quarterback coach. He's an offensive mind, had success as an OC, came on with the Green Bay Packers, and we all know his success as a head coach. Now, some of that could definitely be attributed to the fact that he had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, right? It never hurts when you have arguably one of the top 3 or 4 most talented quarterbacks in the history of football in Aaron Rodgers. So I think a lot of his success obviously has to do with that. But you got to give him credit. The guy did get a Super Bowl. He went to 4 NFC championships. He definitely has some credentials that I think would lead him into being a top-tier head coach. I also read an article on ESPN.com, I think it was ESPN, that said that he's been working the whole offseason. He hasn't stopped. He has a staff in which he's been preparing and has bettered himself to be a potential head coach in the NFL. The question here is, do the Giants want to go with an offensive mind? And if they do, does McCarthy view Daniel Jones and the Giants as a desirable destination? Of course, McCarthy last year was a prime candidate for the New York Jets. Now, I'm not sure if the Jets backed out on him or he backed out on the Jets. I don't know the full details to that story. The Jets, I think, chose Adam Gase. I know chose Adam Gase, but I think the reason they chose Adam Gase, from what I read, was that he did not command full control like other potential coaching candidates. And if McCarthy would want full control with the New York Giants, or at least partial control with player personnel, would Dave Gettleman and John Mara and the New York Giants be okay with that? That's another question you have to ask yourself. But yeah, he's certainly a candidate that has a lot of credentials and would be a popular choice for a lot of NFL teams this offseason. It's not every day that you have the ability to bring in a guy who's still not that old. He's 56 and has a career record of 125-77 and is a former Super Bowl champion. And McCarthy, by all accounts, has said that he wants to come back and be a head coach. So he's a guy that I'm sure the Giants will interview if they decide to move on for Pat Shurmur. I just want to do a quick rundown and give you guys my thoughts on it. He wouldn't be my guy, like I said. Now, I'm not going to be upset if we hire a guy that's had the success of a Mike McCarthy. But like I said, I would rather either a young, fresh mind or a guy with a defensive background. That's where I'm looking now. That's why Ron Rivera would probably be my number one choice. Him or Matt Rule. Those are the 2 guys at the top of my list right now. But, yeah, McCarthy's certainly a guy that I think could be a good choice by the New York Giants. As always, if you like what you watch, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.